it's always different, obviously, depending on the drummer and the room and the time of day and the microphone and everything. There's never any, you know, yeah, it's never the same. But like with the drums, a lot of times what I do with these is I'll get like usually 10K, and I'll maybe something like that, 10K or 8K. And I'll go kind of sharp and I'll push it pretty hard, and then I'll pull down on the shelf on the top. And it has, I mean, when there's kind of a certain sweet spot in it where if you're pushing and pulling at the same time, you get this like this kind of real crispy sound, but you lose that 15K and stuff. That for me, I don't want to hear that, man. You know, I don't want to hear that. So it's strange because you're kind of pushing and pulling in the same place. The bass, I mean, the bottom is the same thing. You can do the same thing with the kick drums, kind of like at 60, you can kind of push and pull some out, and somehow. And I'm not sure exactly how. I mean, I do it all by just kind of, you know, not really even looking at it. I know what I'm doing, but you can get it so you can get like a real, you know, kind of get the kick drum to punch a little bit, but still have it less money somehow.
Because it's not exactly the same frequency.
Is that what it is?
It says 60. Yeah. It's not the same.
And this is also a shelf, right? And this and this here is a shelf. And this is a peak.
No, they're both shelves.
They're both shelves.
Yeah. But because of the difference in frequencies, then when you do this, you get kind of a peak at 80.
Yeah.
And then you get a little dip at 200.
Aha, so this is actually higher than this.
Yeah. But it's not. This is not 200. But that's the resulting curve of doing like this.
Ah, well that's yeah, because that is exactly what I was hearing. Yeah. Was I was hearing kind of like it would push the bottom, but it would mellow out the real mids a little
more,
bit. But
less boomy.
And in this too, man, I use this a lot. Like, I use it, you know, drums definitely. Like a lot of times, just because of the room I have back there and the sound of, you know, certain things in the room. A lot of times, 200 or 300, I'll dip a lot of it out of there.
Okay.
And piano is like here. Look, here's exactly what I'm doing with the piano. The thing with this piano is it plays in tune, but it has a lot of character to it. You know, like a lot of times, like pianos that have that janky sound, they're not real in tune. But this one's great. It's great to record with. With my piano, I dip out a lot of 700. It sounds great, and I add in a little more highs to it. You know, but I mean, the thing I find like with these EQs, which is real different from, I mean, like these Filtecs are kind of cool EQs, you know. Or I really like the EQs in the board and the Trident and stuff, but there's something like a little more musical about them. There's something like where I find I can push real hard and pull on frequencies, and it doesn't have that kind of canny, weird EQing, unnatural sound to it. It doesn't sound processed, but you can bring a lot of character into the sound, you know. So I mean, I find them
of the passive. I mean. The passive.
It's because they're passive, so you're not really adding.
Yeah, it's not like an active. It doesn't sound that wild.
Yeah, but it's amazing because you can do some really. I mean, sometimes I'll do some extreme things. You know, sometimes I'll get some mid-range frequency, go all the way sharp, and boost it all the way, and then come down to like 5K and pull it like, you know. I mean, I'll do some really. I'll have knobs turn all the way, and you'll get some really amazing sounds out of it. You know, you can get like, you know, things like that. You can get like a snare drum to really go. But without hurting your ear, you know, it won't be harsh.
You don't see many people doing like that.
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, a lot of pushing and pulling. I do a lot of that with the high end. You know, sometimes at 20 or 10, but sometimes even down at 5. But I'll do a lot of that where I'll find something narrow and push it, and then kind of shelf it down. Now this has got to be a peak, right?
Yeah.
But this is a shelf, right?
Exactly.
So I mean, I think that's probably the way they work together. That's the thing I think with this, which is very different from like, you know, any of these other EQs or something. Is the way the pushing and pulling, the attenuation, you know, and the boosting works together. You're able to do a lot of kind of really.
That's what makes it interesting.
Yeah, really interesting harmonic things and very musical things. This is a 440B. Yeah. The harder you hit them, the better they sound. You know.
I'm envious, you know, because we don't see those machines in Europe.
Yeah, but you know what? They're pretty. I mean, they're not. I don't think they're that hard to find here. Don't you think, Wayne?
What, the 440s?
Yeah. There's a lot of them. When you first started editing the tape, I couldn't get him to stop looking at it. He's so used to looking at. He's so used to editing by looking at the computer,
and now you're
looking at things, sound wave stuff. So he's sitting there staring. He'd be bent over staring at the tape, rocking back and forth, and there's no mark on the tape or anything. I'm like, Wayne, what are you looking at, man? What are you looking at? I was like, what are you looking at, man? I was like, oh, okay, you don't have to look. I mean, really, I think if I had a lot of money, I would love to have, you know, if I had 2 of these for each channel. You know, on the tape, you know, a mid-range and the 1C. If I had 8 pairs of these, I'd be done, man. I'd be I wouldn't need, you know, even for mixing, I wouldn't need to use any EQs my board or anything, you know, because they're pretty flexible. Once in a while, the only time that I'm preferring to use something like this, something more clinical, is when there's something wrong. You know, when there's something ringing in the room, or there's something's just wrong. Somebody didn't tune the conga, something like that. You know, there's this. Those are the things that it's better to have something like this. I can get real narrow and you know, parametric on it and get real crazy on it. But you know, these are so musical, man. I'd be happy to use those for everything.
Are you satisfied with the the way the mid range works? You don't.
Yeah, mid range works great, man. I mean, the thing is, there's enough of an overlap here. I mean, you have the peak all the way through here, and you have the peak all the way through there. You know, so.
But this seems to be kind of a forgotten unit. You know, not so many people
realize.
Really?
This I find is very, very useful, man. We use this for a lot. I mean, a lot of times I'll use this even when I'm not using that. I mean, like I was saying on the when we were doing this orchestra, you know, like on these Altec units and stuff, you got a bass and a treble control on there.
Yeah.
But you know, like I know there's certain points in the room where mics are in certain places or instruments are certain places, and I have these certain resonances, you know, and that I find this is really great for, because I find like with this I can pull some stuff out, but even if I'm setting it to wide, it pulls. It's not musical. It's not gentle. You know what I mean? It'll pull stuff out. But with this, I can get like. I can find, okay, well there's something kind of honky in that I can't do with that EQ or something, and I'll use this and you know and be able to you can actually dip it pretty hard, and you don't lose the character of the instrument. You know, you kind of lose the tone. It changes the tone of the room and you know the tone of the sound, but it doesn't really. I don't know. There's something harmonically I feel very different when I'm using these, you know, or these on the same thing, or as opposed to these.
Yeah. It's interesting, you know, because it describes what it's kind of all about.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
But I mean, you can see, and these are all fresh. We're using this stuff every day, all the time. You know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff here that maybe I'm using this here, I'm using that there, but this stuff is all the time. And actually, before you got here, I pulled a bunch of tape off of these so you could even see them, because we had tape here with markings, vocal sections here. Once you guys go, we put our coats on, man. People seem to like the coat. See, we got it for us. We felt like we put your coats on and changed your head. You're in your work mode, you know? You have Chief Engineer Roth, Daptone Recording Company. This is Chief Tape Operator Gordon here.
There we go.